Welcome back everyone, Kurt Bauman here, Music in the Stars. In this video, we investigate the full moon, 4 degrees Scorpio. Let's check it out. All right, so what does the moon represent in astrology? It represents our feelings, our emotions. It's a feminine planet, so it represents our receptive nature, our domestic side, how we show up in a way to care for others, how we nurture. So let's relate that, all of those feelings, to Scorpio, the depths, the darkness, the mystery, hidden transformation. A couple things we need to consider here. One, new moon versus full moon. Remember, back at the eclipse, that was the new moon, where we set our intentions, where how we're going to move forward for this point. How are we going to apply what it is that we want to manifest in our lives? How do we activate that? How is that reflected back at us? Now let's bring that to the full moon. Reflections, reflecting that light. This is the time where we really hone in and put our intention in action. We see the fruition of our seeds within this particular lunar cycle. Now this one is at 4 degrees Scorpio. So the other thing we need to look at is where the moon is in our own personal charts, because this is one thing that comes up quite a bit. People are like, well, how can the moon and its sign just affect us all in this same way? And the answer is, well, it does not. And the reason it does not is because we have to take into account where our own moon is located in our natal chart. And then we see if the current transiting moon, if this current full moon is triggering your own moon in any way. It could be a trine, it could be a square, it could be an opposition, whatever it is. And then this, in turn, will dictate how you will likely respond due to the current position of the moon. Again, I always like to remind people that astrology is not so black and white in definite terms, meaning, oh, you're absolutely going to respond in this way because you are such and such sign now. It's not necessarily that way because we have free will. We have the capacity to make our own choices, as well as like just the natural evolution of life and what we've learned. This is where it ties back into understanding our natal chart, because it really does provide us an avenue to understand who we are and the things that we love about ourselves, the things that we enjoy about ourselves. We continue moving forward and responding in that way. And then those parts of ourselves that we may need to tweak a little bit, we're like, I'm not super stoked on how I respond in this way. We at least then have awareness of that, and we have the capacity to respond and act differently. So again, tying all of that back in to the full moon, 4 degrees Scorpio, you look in your own chart and you see what aspects you have at that 4 degree mark, or within like what we call orbs, within a few degrees on either side of that. So let's back up. Full moon in the sign of Scorpio, the full reflection of our feelings, our emotions, our reflections of our emotional selves in the world. In the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is deep. It cuts to the core. There's no room for fluff here. Scorpio is not into that. Scorpio is all about the serious nature of life. These are serious emotions likely coming up. What's interesting about this one is it is at a square with Pluto in Aquarius. This moon is square with Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto is the natural ruler of Scorpio. So squares indicate obstacles, blockages, places where we need to take action in order to free up energy. So there could be things coming up during this full moon that want to be expressed from the depths, from the core of our emotional beings. Yet we may have difficulties finding a way to express those in some way, finding a way to express those emotions. What does Pluto represent? It represents our personal evolution, our growth, how we transform and transmute energy in our lives in order for us to expand and grow and liberate aspects of ourselves that seek to be expressed. So there's an opportunity here within this square. Sometimes people get freaked out if they have an abundance of squares in their charts, or squares come up because they feel limited, but these are opportunities. These are the adversities of life that bring the spice of life. This is where we have an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to really hone in on what it is and what area that we can evolve and grow. So it's a gift, and I'm not saying it's easy. Believe me, I know that it's not, especially working with Pluto energies and Scorpio energies. But as I always say, this is the shamanic work. This is where we go into the underworld. And within the underworld, we hold our center. We hold our truth. We know who we are. We act without fear. And we move forward. And we take action because we know that we need to do this in order to expand our truths, to expand ourselves and evolve who we are, so we can reflect that out into the world through that emotional nature, through that full moon. The full moon is literally a reflection of the sunlight bouncing back into the world through those feelings, through those emotions, through how we show up to care for ourselves and care for those around us. Interesting as well about the Pluto square. So what that means, if we have a full moon, we have an opposition with the sun, right? So the sun is also at square with that Pluto in Aquarius. So what we have is now what's known as a T-square. T-squares build a lot of energy. In the natal chart, what I would do is I would see which houses this is happening in, the opposition and the squares. And to relieve that energy, you go to the opposite house of where those squares are activated. Forgive me if I'm getting off on an astrological jargon tangent here. It's not what I mean to do. What I'm aiming to provide for you is we need to find a way during this full moon to balance out that polarity with those squares, to release this energy that may be hidden deep down. There may be something deep in the core aiming to come to the surface. Yet we have blockages in the way, we have stresses in the way, and we need to find creative ways to relieve those stresses so we can use this full moon energy that is being provided for us right now. A lot going on in this full moon, a lot going on in the month of April in general. This is all happening with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we talked about in the last video, all tied in to the eclipse, Mercury retrograde, you name it. April's delivering it for us. But nonetheless, these are always opportunities for growth. These are always opportunities for self-understanding, self-awareness, which for me is what astrology is all about, and how we can use these tools to better advance forward in our lives. And as you've heard me say many, many times, so we can be better people in our communities and thus out into the world. Please let me know how all this sounds. Please let me know how you're feeling during this full moon. Leave a comment below. I do my best to get to the comments and respond from a heartfelt way. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, because I love being able to show up here and provide this content for you. Thank you so very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.